What's going on, guys? This is Frank here. Got some training footage for you all. This is actually a little bit older, a little over a week ago. Hitting a top set on squats, it was a 1x6, but really just an AMRAP to see where I'm at. Ever since I did competed at Raw Nationals, I've been training higher volume and doing some variations for squat. I've been doing the safety squat bar. So this was kind of just like a test to see where I'm at. This was at 85% of my old 1 rep max, which was 424 that I hit at Raw Nationals. So that should be a 6 rep max, basically 85%. So just kind of testing where I'm at. This set felt pretty good. I was kind of off balance on a couple reps, but I think that's just because I've been working at lower intensities with higher volume lately, but I was extremely happy with how this went. This is definitely an all-time volume PR for me. I hit 7. This is my last rep here, I think. And I definitely had 1 left, probably 2 left in the tank there. So really excited about that, and going to be looking forward to getting into higher intensity training as I get hopefully towards a meet, or at least a mock meet, to see where my true 1 rep max will be. I think that calculated out to being around like 440 or 450 as a 1 rep max, so that's pretty good in my opinion right now. I'm pretty happy with how that went. So this is now a week later. This is working with 335 pounds, going beltless here. This is around 75%. We shifted up my training max a little bit based off of that last top set that I hit a week beforehand. So I think this was 75%. So 335. This felt good. I was actually really sore coming into this workout. My low back in particular, for some reason, was extremely fatigued from earlier in the week. So they didn't feel that great, but looking back at the footage, it looks way better than it felt. So just hitting a 3x5 here. I usually try to stay beltless when I'm working under 80% on squats, and typically I do the same thing for deadlifts. Sometimes if I get to 75%, I'll throw a belt on depending on how I'm feeling, but that's kind of my rule of thumb. I'm not really sure where that came from. It's just something that I've always done. Obviously trying to train beltless is probably better to increase your core strength and everything, so putting a belt on makes things feel and makes things actually a little bit easier. So trying to train beltless when I can, even though my back was pretty wrecked already coming into this. But these sets actually went pretty well. This was a 3x5 for squats. So for a meet coming up, I'm hoping to do one towards the middle to end of April. There should be one in Maryland at some point. Unfortunately, there's nothing on the calendar yet for the USAPL. I've spoken with the chairman for the USAPL Maryland, and as of like a few weeks ago, he said they were planning on doing a meet then. They've had one every year for the past several years in April. So I'm really hoping that I will be able to do that. It's just kind of frustrating that I don't have an exact date so I can plan my training accordingly, because if there is a meet, it would be less than 12 weeks out right now at this point. But either way, I'll either probably do that meet if it comes up, or just end up doing a mock meet in the gym just to see where I'm at, and so I can get some new training maxes and new numbers to work off of. So this was my last set on squats here, last rep there. Moving on to bench. So I've been benching 3 times per week lately. One day is the variation where I do the board press, and then over the past maybe month or so, I've been having 2 competition style bench days instead of just 1 like I've been doing with my squat and deadlift. And that's just because my bench is always my worst lift, especially in competition. So just trying to get some more volume in and some more technique work definitely with the competition style lifting. So really focusing on my setup and everything, trying to keep everything as competition style as possible, even though this weight is pretty light for me. So this was just 225 for 5x3, and I basically just did these every minute on the minute. So that was on my push day. So this is the next day, my last training day of the week, and this is in kind of like an upper body day, but I also do deficit deadlifts on this day. So this is my bench competition style strength day. So 229 for 3 sets of 5, and these were feeling really good today. For some reason, my bench at like a lower percentage and higher volume, I can usually rep out a lot of weight, but that doesn't always translate into my 1 rep max, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if that's common or uncommon, or it's just a problem with my technique at higher percentages versus lower percentages. So once we get into working at higher percentages, I'm definitely gonna make sure I'm focusing on my technique, and hopefully I will see some of that carryover from this lower intensity, higher volume work. But leading up to a meet or a mock meet, we're definitely going to focus on bench press and spending some time working at higher intensity, probably earlier than we will be for the squat and the deadlift leading up to the meet. So this was my last set, and since I was feeling good, I decided to do an AMRAP, just because the first couple sets felt good and they were a little bit easier than I would have liked. I really try to hit like an RPE 8 or 9 on most of my sets. So I wanted to kind of push this a little bit more to see where I'm at. So like I said, I've been really focusing on my setup lately and just trying to stay as tight as possible. So I ended up getting, I think, 7 here. Yeah, so I did manage to hit 7, and I called it an RPE 8. So that was my last rep there. So I definitely had 1 and most likely would have had 2 left in the tank there. So last main movement of the week are my deficit deadlifts. So if you follow me on Instagram, I put this up there, just mentioning how I might try to actually pull off of a deficit at my next meet. I'm just kidding, obviously, but these have been feeling amazing, and sometimes, or most of the time, even better than my lifts off of the floor. So I'm still trying to kind of figure out why that's the case. There is obviously more, I guess there's more knee and more hip flexion and therefore involvement in the lift than if you're pulling from the floor. So my lower body is able to, I guess, contribute a little bit more to the lift, but since it is such a larger range of motion, it shouldn't really be that way, where I feel better on these than the floor. So I think it also has to do with part of my setup. So I've been really working on my setup lately on my conventional lifts from the floor. But this is 462 for 4 sets of 3 here. I ended up filming 3 of these sets, and they moved really well. They obviously felt worse than they look. They look actually even faster than they felt, which I think is always the case with deadlifts especially. But looking forward to getting into a meet prep, or at least a mock meet prep, and working with some higher intensities and seeing where my strength's at after all this volume over the past several months. My body weight's been pretty stable, 187-ish to 188-ish, so no problems there. I'll be pretty good cutting down to 83 kilos or 183 pounds when I need to do that for a meet. So thanks again for watching the video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you in the next one.